Talktainment Radio Worldwide Sound. Talktainmentradio.com. We give you a reason to come. The world's greatest radio. We give you a reason to stay. Radio, the way it should be heard. You got the power.
The views and opinions expressed are those of the host and guest and not necessarily those of TalkTainmentRadio.com, the management, the staff, or K&E World Network, LLC.
This is The Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller, heard exclusively on TalkTainmentRadio.com, the world's greatest radio. Radio, the way it should be heard. And now, Mr. Neely Fuller.
If you do not understand white supremacy, which is racism, what it is and how it works, everything else that you understand will only confuse you. Only confuse you. Only confuse you.
Well. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to TalkTainmentRadio.com, the world's greatest radio, and you are in touch with the compensatory concept. I'm Mr. Bobby, and this is radio the way it should be heard. All righty. On the line with me again each and every Wednesday is Dr. Neely Fuller, and yes, he gave me permission that I may call him Dr. Fuller, so when you hear that, that's me. He's not a self-proclaimed doctor, but he's my doctor because of the information that he distributes, and if you research it for yourself, you'll find out some very interesting things. So let me start off by saying good morning, Dr. Fuller.
Good morning.
And as usual, how are you?
I'm still learning.
Yes, sir. I love it. Hey, could you turn me up a little bit here? Thank you. Good. Before we get started, Dr. Fuller, as usual, we'll ask you, is there any thing that you have on your mind that you would like to talk about before we get started on today's programming?
Well, I heard some things on the radio yesterday by Mr. Rush Limbaugh, and he was saying that everything seems to be about race. If I am not misquoting him, he talked at quite great length about it. He said, everybody is talking about race. He said, everything is not about race, and that what we need to talk about is big government taking over people's lives. Now, I don't like to misquote anybody, so I'm not going into depth on it, but I listened to him at great length. And I listen to people. Part of the codification that I write about is that you listen to everybody, because everything that people should be doing on this planet, everything that people should be doing on this planet, in my opinion, and what I think is according to logic, should be about problem solving. Every move that people make, they should wake up in the morning thinking about. Now, there are a lot of problems, and people are always talking about their problems. People are in pain about their problems. So it's logical that people would be thinking about, well, maybe I should be a person who is about problem solving.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that if everybody got on that wavelength, the world might be a better place, because when you solve problems in the most constructive fashion, that is, then it's logical to think that the result will be a better world. Yes, all the way around.
Yes, sir.
So that's what I've been thinking about.
Mm-hmm.
And what is the process for solving problems? Well, in my estimation, by stumbling and fumbling around and whatnot, I noticed that most problems are solved through a process of questions and answers. You ask enough questions and get enough answers, you can solve problems. All scientists, when they're in a laboratory, are actually asking questions. What is this? What is that? What is this grain of sand? Why is this grain of sand in the universe? Why is this grain of sand that I found at the bottom of the ocean different from other grains of sand? What is the purpose that I can use it for? Is there any purpose for it? And the assumption with most scientists is that everything can serve a purpose, and everything can serve a constructive purpose.
Yes.
So therefore, you notice everything in the universe around you.
Mm-hmm.
So I was thinking within the context of Mr. Rush Limbaugh making this statement, that everything is about race. So the first thing you want to know if someone makes a statement, is it true? And it seems like a lot of discussions are about race. I know I talk about it all the time. All of the work that I have written is about the problem of race.
Yes.
Why do I think about the problem of race as being a problem? Because I say it is not only a problem, it's the biggest problem.
Mm-hmm.
And I've also said within the book itself, the textbook for victims of white supremacy, that you're not going to solve any major problem between people on this planet, period, without solving the problem of race.
Yes. If you have any calls for Dr. Fuller, you can call the station at 1-877-932-9766. That's 877-932-9766, and Dr. Fuller would be happy to answer your calls, and I'll be happy to listen to it too. Okay, Dr. Fuller, you indicated that all problems, there's a logic involved in that, and in your opening statement, I listened to it very carefully and actually repeat it every day. You say that if you do not understand racism, what it is and how it works, it would only lead you to confusion. In that you make that statement, you research that, and the people that you deal with, how do you, when you run into the confusion like that, how do you confront that, or what do you do?
Well, racism is based on the manufacture of confusion. The chief weapon of a racist is deception.
Yes, sir.
And violence. And deception is a form of indirect violence. Then you have direct violence. You have two types of violence, indirect violence and direct violence. Direct violence is when you just walk up to someone and shoot them or stab them with a knife or drop a bomb on them or something like that. That's direct violence. Indirect violence is when you're deceiving a person to that person's detriment. You're fooling a person. You're saying things to the person. You're confusing the person, because when you deceive a person, you're actually causing the person's mind to become confused.
Yes, sir. We have a call for you, Dr. Fuller.
Yes,
go ahead, caller. Whoops. Wait a minute. Yeah, go ahead, caller.
And my first question to Mr. Neely Fuller is how to help people who do not want to help themselves.
How do you help people who cannot help themselves?
Who do not seem to have the will or desire to help themselves to problem solve in reality.
Oh, well, if the people do not recognize that they have a problem, then they really don't have a problem. You can tell people your philosophy of what people should be doing, and that would just be a viewpoint. That's an opinion. But you don't try to make a problem for people who perceive that they don't have a problem. It's only when people say that they have a problem that they are willing to listen.
Okay.
Most people, if you walk up to them and just say, look, I think we have a problem here, and the people listen to you carefully, and they say, well, I don't see it as a problem. I don't have a problem. I'm here in my village, and I'm doing this, and I'm doing that, and I don't see any problem at all. Why are you bringing me a problem? I'm not looking for a problem, and I don't have a problem, so why are you bringing me a discussion about a problem when I don't have a problem? So you just simply tell the person, well, what do you think it is that you're doing that has solved your problem? You say, well, I've solved all my problems. I had some problems, or maybe I never had any problem. Some people say that they have never had a problem about anything. Everything has just always worked very smoothly with them. Then you don't bother the person with it. The book that I have written is people who perceive that they have been victimized, and that being victimized, that has constituted a problem for them. And they have perceived that they have been victimized by something called racism in the form of white supremacy, and that has made a problem for them. So therefore, I always tell people, my book is just for people who perceive themselves as being victims of the system of white supremacy, which I say is the dominant system of all of the non-white people on the planet. And it is an evil system that has caused all kinds of problems. Problems with drugs, problems with so-called family, problems with people having to leave one place and try to migrate to another place. The racists are behind all of this, the white supremacists. Not all white people, but those white people who believe in mistreating people, first dominating them and mistreating them based on color.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And that these are the most powerful people on the planet. Okay. So the short answer to that question is, if people do not perceive that they have a problem, they say they are doing just fine, and everything is working fine for them, and that they never encounter a problem in anything that they do, then don't try to give those people a problem. This is strictly for people who say that there is a problem, and the problem is racism.
All righty. Thank you, Dr. Fuller, or thank you, caller. 1-877-932-9766. And before we go to the next caller, Dr. Fuller, you spoke about that book or books. How can a person get in touch with that book and then the name of that book so they know what they're getting?
Well, it's called, the subtitle of it, the basic title is the United Independent Compensatory Code System Concept. Those words are explained in the book because the person wouldn't know what that meant just looking at the title.
Yes,
I wouldn't know what it meant without explanation. But there's a subtitle, Textbook Workbook for Thought, Speech, and or Action for Victims of White Supremacy.
And where can they get this?
Get the book by going to producejustice.com. That's producejustice.com, like in product. Producejustice.com, and what will come up on the screen is a method for ordering a basic textbook and or a compensatory counter-racist word guide, because a lot of the system of racism is held together with some glue that we call words. And they do a lot of their work against people through the use of language. So there's a counter-racist word guide. You can get either one or both books. One is in addition to the other book.
Yes, sir.
But that's producejustice.com.
Okay, Dr. Fuller, we have another call. Go ahead, caller. And where are you calling from?
Good morning. I'm calling from New Jersey.
All righty, New Jersey.
And so I heard your good morning, Mr. Fuller.
Good morning.
I'm calling in regards to your observation regarding Rush Limbaugh. Now, I did not hear his show yesterday. I have heard him say it on other times wherein the problem is not race, it's big government. My question to you is, well, let me lace it with this. It seems to me, and you correct me or correct my thinking if I'm mistaken, that there has been benign government neglect of all people of color in America ever since Caucasians have come to power. And so there's always been big government support for Caucasians since Caucasians have been in power. So I'm confused as to what I've always been confused as to what Rush Limbaugh means as the problem is not race, it's big government. When government helps people of color, all of a sudden it's big. When government helps people that they prefer it to help, there's no problem with government. And so is it that this suspect racist is really promoting racism by giving us deception that the problem is not race, that it's really just government or big government?
Well, see, that's why I said what I said in the beginning. See, when a person makes a statement, the person, if there are any questions about the statement that the person makes, and that includes if I make a statement, if there are any questions about that statement, the person to ask for an explanation of the statement is the person who makes the statement. That's the compensatory process. That's the logical process. Everything that you do should be based on logic. So I can't answer the questions, that question about what Mr. Limbaugh said. That's why I said what I said. I said I would have to ask him. I can't ask somebody else what he meant.
I understand.
See, so therefore I actually, and I would ask him. That's why I'm telling people on the air right now that when somebody like Mr. Rush Limbaugh makes statements, then you think immediately about asking him to explain his statements in detail. And just don't take the first answers, because the first answers usually are not answers. That's in asking anybody questions. That's why court systems are set up based on asking many questions in depth. And another thing, you never move to the second question without answering the first question, ever.
Right.
You always lock onto that first question, and don't move to a second question without taking care of that first question thoroughly. Otherwise, you're apt to get what? Confusion.
Right.
So, therefore, the first question I would ask Mr. Rush Limbaugh is exactly what you said. What do you mean by big government? What government? What government are you talking about? Who is the government? Who makes up the government? Who has the most power in any government on this planet? All right? That's a series of questions about just one statement. And where people, I think, in my opinion, make errors in clarification is that they don't ask enough questions about one statement. They usually will ask one or two questions about a statement that is made and then let it go at that. No, the procedure should be to ask every possible question that could be asked, and that might run into the hundreds on just one statement.
Yes.
Until you get what? Until you get total clarification. And why do you need total clarification? Because if you don't get total clarification, what you're going to have is confusion. And that's the one thing you don't ever want.
Absolutely. Thank you, caller, for calling. You're listening to The Compensatory Concept with Dr. Neely Fuller, but we have other shows on the network. You can join the host Julie Whitney Scott as she presents Julie Whitney Scott Presents. And she presents the arts, theater, movies, festivals, and everything to do with the entertainment world, both near and far. Miss Julie will interview writers, directors, producers, musicians, and anyone and everyone connected to the entertainment world. She will keep you informed of what's going on in your local community theater world, as well as what high school plays you should go and see and support. This broadcast is on Thursdays exclusively here on TalkTainmentRadio.com. Radio, the way it should be heard. We have another caller on the line for you, Dr. Fuller. Go ahead, caller.
Yes.
And where are you calling from?
I'm calling from New Orleans, the place that Rush Limbaugh referenced as to how successful the response to Hurricane Katrina was.
Oh, boy, yeah.
Yeah, I'm Brother Warren, and like I said, greetings. My question for Mr. Fuller on his definition of culture, which I use it, but what word will we use to describe the different languages that people speak, the different folkways and customs, the cuisine, the traditions people practice? What term should we use to apply to that? Since culture is what you do at the time you're doing it. You have a variety of languages, a variety of ways. So that's my question on how we use, what term we use to describe that, Mr. Fuller.
Yes, that's what culture is. Just flat out. I mean, if you stop and think about it logically, that's what it would have to be. Culture consists of all of the things that a person does. Whatever, if I look back on all of the things I've done in my entire existence, that, when you put it all together and draw a line under it, just like you do in mathematics, and add it all up, that is my culture. Otherwise, what would be my culture? Put it in the form of a question. If my culture is not that, what is it? And some people will say, well, culture is more than that. Well, more than that, like what? See, that calls for another question. Remember, all problems are solved by questions and answers, but it has to be enough questions. How many questions are enough? All the questions that are necessary to get clarification and truth.
Okay.
Because
so
without
when you
that,
take
you
the
can't
word
get anything.
Culture being defined as what you do at the time you're doing it, and if we take, let's say, non-white people, then if non-white people, they speak different languages. So we have to say that non-white people have different cultures, or, how will we qualify that even the white people have different languages? So you made a comment that white people's culture is dominating black people. Okay. So there are no government, the only government is a system of white supremacy, but you have whites who speak French, some whites who speak English, etc. So how all of that comes under culture, you see?
Yes, but the strongest culture on this planet, the most powerful culture on this planet, according to all of the evidence, not according to Neely Fuller, according to the evidence, is the culture of white supremacy, which means when you put everything together that the white supremacists do, that's the white people who believe in white supremacy, when you add up everything that they do at beginning and end of each day, it makes them, for some mysterious reason, more powerful than the non-white people of the planet. They're the most powerful people on the planet. No matter what it is you see them doing, it's adding to their strength. Otherwise, their strength would dissipate. That's just the mathematics of it. It's not a personal thing. It's just the way it works. Why are they the most powerful people on the planet? It's because everything that they do makes them powerful. And everything that non-white people do, particularly people classified as black on this planet, makes them powerless. When you add up everything that they do, it makes us powerless. That's why we are the most powerless people. We're the greatest beggars on the planet. We are the people who are asking people for things. We're not producing anything, even though we like to brag about how black we are and how we're doing this and how great our ancestors were and all like that. That's a bunch of nonsense. If you're talking about really making progress, we need to examine our culture, everything that we do, and examine it for one thing. Is it constructive or non-constructive? We don't need to look for anything else.
Well, on that point there, Dr. Fuller, and culture, constructive or non-constructive, what is this culture of black men wearing dresses?
Oh, we are being degenderized. That's the white supremacist culture.
Okay.
I mean, that's what they are doing to the non-white people. See, what a lot of things that black people do that they call black culture is really just a reaction to white culture, which is white supremacists. It's making the white supremacists stronger.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, black people standing around dealing drugs all day, that's making the white supremacists stronger. Those people coming across the border right now that everybody seems to be upset about, they are running away from people who are killing each other. These are dark-skinned people. Killing each other about what? About drugs, about gangs. This is non-constructive activity. Everybody will run away from people who do nothing but that.
That's right.
Those people will be running away from each other, the people who are doing it, in the final analysis, because nobody's producing anything. At a certain point, when everybody's gone and nobody's working, you just can't run around killing everybody all day and think that you can have a strong culture and nobody's working, nobody's producing anything, nobody's digging the crops out of the ground, nobody's making the trains run on time. Why? Because they're just running around bang, 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 like a lot of black people do on the south side of Chicago and in Brazil and other places.
Yes.
And then not only that, writing songs bragging about that being their culture.
1-877-932-9766 is the number if you'd like to get in contact with Dr. Fuller. We have another call. Go ahead, caller, and where are you calling from? Go ahead, caller, and where are you calling from?
I'm still on the line, sir, from New Orleans.
Oh, okay, New Orleans. I'm sorry. Go ahead. You have another question? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, now this is a very intriguing question. Among many black, and I'd like Dr. Neely Fuller to answer this as it relates to the fact that all non-white people are victims of white supremacy. And I get in an argument with friends about this. Many black people feel that those blacks who have more material things than other blacks, such as homes, professional jobs, they are less victims of white supremacy than, let's say, those blacks who reside in public housing developments, neighborhoods that are, damaged by violence, etc., and that they are the real victims of white supremacy. But the black people who live in neighborhoods with other blacks where they may, quote unquote, own their homes, that they are not only less victims, they are part of the problem. And I get into this back and forth with many blacks, particularly who are concentrated on the class level of things.
Okay, we're up against the clock. So could you state your question here?
Okay, are black people who are quote unquote poor, are they more victims of white supremacy than blacks who live a more comfortable material existence?
Thank you. Go ahead, Dr. Fuller.
It's a matter of understanding white supremacy. White supremacy means supreme. Put the emphasis on white and supreme. White supremacy in all 9 areas of activity over all of the non-white people of the planet. Not some, all. That's what white supremacy means. You can't chop it up. You can't say that there are some non-white people who are not subject to white supremacy. That would mean there's no such thing as white supremacy. That's what that would mean. But I'm saying the statement that I'm making is either true or false. Either you have white supremacy or you don't. There's no such thing as in between. And if you have color in your skin, you're under white supremacy. Doesn't make any difference how much money you have, because the money that you have comes from the white supremacists. There's no mysterious money on this planet. It comes from the moon somewhere, or from Mars, or some other galaxy, or some house that comes from somewhere else. If you are black and you're on this planet and you have a fancy house, it came from the white supremacists. That's what white supremacy means. You don't have anything that doesn't come from them.
Wow.
Not one.
So much.
All right, caller. Thank you for calling in. Not one. Not one. Wow, Dr.
Anywhere on the planet.
Anywhere on the planet. Wow. And the logic behind that would be to ask questions concerning that.
Sure. Mm-hmm. Now, just because Neely Fuller made that statement doesn't mean that it's true, but you can check it out and see if it's true. Ask that person with that fancy mansion on the side of the hill with servants all over the place and 12 cars in the garage. Ask him or her, if they got color in their skin, where did it come from? Where is the origin of it?
That's one of the things that I admire about you. You always say, check it out. TalkTameRadio.com. Check us out on WCRS FM 98.3 Wednesdays and also Sunday evenings. Blogs and podcasts are available. Download TalkTameRadio.com application to your cell or tablet. We go where you go, radio, the way it should be heard. Stay right there. We're going to have more of your calls with Dr. Fuller. All that and more coming up next on TalkTameRadio.com.
TalkTainmentRadio.com is the premier internet radio platform offering 40-plus talk radio-style programs professionally produced, optimized for online distribution, featuring Columbus, Ohio on-air personalities. TalkTainmentRadio.com offers listeners diverse programming options covering topics such as arts and culture, love, life and relationships, technology, religion, paranormal activities, local and national politics, women's issues, alongside health and wellness. Listeners can access their favorite TalkTainmentRadio.com programs free of cost through the website. Download the TTR app to your cell phone and you can take us wherever you go. We have programs on demand to fit your schedule through our podcast. The address is TalkTainmentRadio.com.
Hi, this is Bobby West, the new host of the Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller, every Wednesday at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time here on TalkTainmentRadio.com. And yes, I am back. So tune in every Wednesday for the Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller with your new co-host, Bobby West, right here on TalkTainmentRadio.com. Radio, the way it should be heard.
Have you ever wished you could spend more time with your kids, or maybe quality time with your spouse, when you can actually have an uninterrupted conversation? Do you owe your dad a little catch-up time? Well, it's time to reconnect, and no activity can bond a family together quite like boating and fishing. I mean, think of all the great experiences you had as a kid when you went boating or fishing. Well, guess what? It's still great. Boating and fishing are the perfect opportunities for your family to get away, to talk, to laugh, to create new memories. So take someone you love out on the water and see where the water takes you. If you haven't been on the water in a while and you're not sure where to start, or if you just like to have some helpful tips for your next trip, please visit TakeMeFishing.org. This has been a public service of TalkTainmentRadio.com. Radio, the way it should be heard.
The United Independent Compensatory Code System concept by Neely Fuller is considered as one of the substantial and basic books for understanding and effectively countering racism. Neely Fuller will turn upside down everything you've heard and everything you think you know about racism and how it works. Call area code 202-484-5461. 202-484-5461.
Are there hidden sex words that impact your brain? Are there secret images and symbols that manipulate and control your child's mind and behavior? Why are so many youth unable to resist the destructive sexual messages beamed into their brain without them knowing they are being manipulated? Do you want answers? Get the new book, Sex Code War by Kahari and Ahara, coming soon.
For information on everything from passports to driver's licenses to local weather, go to firstgov.gov. Firstgov.gov, the official source for federal, state, and local government information.
Years ago, identical twins were separated at birth. Chris Paul was destined for life of basketball. Cliff Paul was destined to become a State Farm agent. They shared one invaluable trait. They were both born to assist. Find an agent born to get you to a better state.
I think I'm entitled. You want answers. I want the truth. You can't handle the truth.
You got the power.
Alrighty. TalkTainmentRadio.com, the world's greatest radio. That's radio the way it should be heard. This is Mr. Bobby, and you're listening to the Compensatory Concept with my friend and my mentor, Dr. Neely Fuller. Dr. Fuller, the phone lines are blowing up. I think we have Jerry. Go ahead. Is that you, Jerry? Okay, I can't hear you, but see if we can get it. Jerry?
Hello, yes.
Okay,
yes.
Where are you calling from?
From Rotterdam, in Holland.
Oh, you're calling in Holland. Okay. What is your question for Dr. Fuller?
My question is I live in Holland, and is it possible for people outside of your country to order the book?
Dr. Fuller?
Oh, no. I don't have any facilities for that. I mean, I'm trying to get it. I'm trying to get set up so that I can send the book all over the world, if I can. I find it very difficult to do that right now, but I'm trying to find means of facilitating that. But right now, it's just available primarily in this part of the world, and there are a few people who I, with great difficulty, sent the books to places like Paris and London, and a few places in Africa. But I'm not set up for that right now. In fact, I haven't been able to distribute the book very well here in what we call the Northwestern Hemisphere. And it's always a distribution problem. And plus, I've had some interference from people doing things that shouldn't be done, which is to be expected. And that has confused the situation as far as getting the message out in its purest form, rather than having the message that I write about distorted, because there are some distortions that are out there, and I strongly suspect the white supremacists are at work doing that.
Was that it? Was that it, Holland?
Yes, that was my only question.
Okay. Thank you so much for calling from Holland. Go ahead, caller. And who are you, and where are you calling from? Go ahead.
Hello?
Yes. What's your name, and where are you calling from?
Calling from Chicago.
All right. Chi-Town. What's your name?
My name is Cedric. And my question for Mr. Fuller was that two things. One, I wanted to ask him, for example, I work at a car rental place. I noticed that among the black people, especially the women, it's a lot of animosity. And like, for example, two women come to work early in the morning, got into a scuffle, and then they both get fired. Really, and when I try to, like, for example, I try to find different things to invest in, like, for example, you could pay out people tax sales. I try to trade options. I try to print out T-shirts, things like that. And when I try to tell other people it's other things they can do to make money, they don't want to, they don't seem to want to, they don't want to seem to accept it. Or I even suggest to tell them, like, look, it's 8 of y'all in an investment group. If you put your money together, study, you can find a way to do other things outside of work.
Okay, Dr. Fuller, address that fight issue.
If I understand the problem that he's talking about, that's the problem that's been around since the beginning of white supremacy. One thing that the white supremacists are experts at, like they're experts at the entire system of white supremacy, otherwise there would be no such thing as white supremacy. But when you get into the details, they are experts at causing people to turn on each other, just like in a prison. I mean, they are experts at causing prison riots and let the prisoners go at each other. They're not hurting the prison at all. I mean, they're just tearing each other apart. So they know how to do this among all people that they conquer. They set them against each other. It's very easy to do. They will give one person a little more. They even do that on slave ships. They'll give one or two people a little more bread than they give to the other slave, and then the slaves get to fighting over the bread. And then they will tell one that one is a little smarter than the other. And then they will get them to fighting about that. So it's just all kinds of things that you can get people to fight about when you're controlling all of the people that you're getting to do the fighting. It's real easy to do when you are a master of a situation, when you have people on your thumb. So that's to be expected. And that shouldn't disappoint you. I mean, that's to be expected.
Okay, and then he said something about business. He said that there are other things you can do. I think he mentioned about something about opening up a shirt business, or he's doing that, and other people seem to be reluctant. How would you address that in the code system?
I'm going to address it directly. If you're going into business, try to do it with one person or maybe two, and that really are serious about doing it.
And like for like not to cut you off, but like not even just for when I say like for like I'm gonna tell you where my mind set from. Like I try to tell people that they're going to crash in the economy, and there's certain things what we can do. Like for example, I have a cousin because I seen on the internet you can make your own laundry detergent. So she made up her own laundry detergent for like $5. It can do you do your whole laundry for a year. So I'm telling people, look, you can do this. That'll save you money. They got something like a grow tent that you could put in your apartment. You can grow tomatoes and everything. You know, they got something like a 3D printer that my father's finna order one. You know, we're going to get that started too, where you could print up things. You know, and I'm just trying to tell people that it is things you can do.
All right, Dr. Fuller?
There are things you can do, but it's been my observation that the white supremacists are so efficient at setting black people against each other. We have that kind of mentality. We all carry that poison, even those of us who think that we don't have it. We have been poisoned by the people who have dominated us. Poison against each other. Poison against ourselves. We really don't like ourselves, even though we go around talking about how much we like each other.
This is true.
We high-five all day long. We're talking about black people and black love and all like that. That does not exist. We ought to even stop saying that. And it's not going to happen under the system of white supremacy. I'm going to put that out there right now. It's not going to happen. You have to get rid of the entire system for that to happen. But in the meantime, you can do compensatory things, like one or two. Maybe one or two.
Okay.
Like you're talking about tomatoes. Just maybe if you can get just one other person to go along with you on that project, then you do it. Because if you try to stretch it to 3 or 4 people, you're in the danger zone already.
I see
Four black people are almost like impossible to work with. If you don't believe it, try it.
Hey, I see it because you know what?
You're already in the danger zone.
I see what
that business
saying,
is going to fall apart because you got about 4 people there involved. You can have 2. You're stretching it when you do 3. But when you get as many as 4, you're in danger of that whole thing falling apart. I mean, that's almost a built-in certainty.
All right. Thank you so much, Chicago, for your call. Okay, caller, who are you and where are you calling from?
Hello?
Yes, what's your name and where are you calling from?
Estelle, California. Want to talk to Neely Fuller. Neely Fuller.
He's right here. Dr. Fuller's right here. Go ahead with your question.
Hi, Neely Fuller. You recognize me? I wanted to say that I had the pleasure of knowing Neely Fuller for so many years, and he helped guide me as a single black female with 4 sons that I was left to raise all alone. And a lot of stuff he helped provide me, he gave me a list of movies to watch, which I used to help guide my son to understand the system, the global system of white supremacy.
Yes.
He gave me The Godfather, he taught me about Band of Brothers. He had, I forget the one, with Hepburn and he'll know what I'm talking about. But, I've watched all those. The best thing he told me, because I was a real what you call a girly girl, and I was very frail. I'm up here left. My ex just walked off and left with a white female. He wanted my sons, but then he left. The thing that tore me apart is when you have to go out here as a woman alone, a black female, and deal with this society on your own. And I was just, I was up one day, down the next. The best things that he helped me with was, when I step out that door, he told me that I automatically tell myself that I'm going into World War I, II, and World War III. And that has helped me because I don't go out there supposing, okay, I'm just going to do this and things are going to fall right. Anytime I've had to interact with any of the white supremacists, I've used that method, and for anyone else out there, single females, because we have a lot of black females by themselves, that is the number one thing. You must know you're in a battle. If you think of it any way else, you're not going to make it out here.
So is it safe to say, California, that he is also your mentor?
Absolutely.
There you go.
I just love this. I love this man, and I just was wishing there could be more Neely Fullers out here to find who actually take this situation seriously. I've known him long enough, and it's not a game to him.
No, it's
not. It doesn't
not.
say one day it's on, and the next day there's no white supremacy. It's on every day.
Thank you, California. Do you care to...
And I just...
Go ahead, Dr. Fuller.
Yeah, I had a...
Go ahead, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Dr. Fuller, I also want to say, you talked to us, the black females, a long time ago when you came out here to Essewan Books in California, and you told us that we're kind of on our own. I learned about the code too late. I hope you can answer that again on why black females have to realize they're going to be on their own, even if they find the best black male that loves them.
Good question.
Why do they have to know that? And also, you gave us a movie also called Nothing But a Man. And in that man, there's Ivan Dixon and the other actress that was with him, Abby Lincoln. And she's ultra-feminine. This is before we have this our situation now, where black males really did go after black females in the past.
All right, good question. Go ahead, Dr. Fuller.
Yes.
Okay.
And he gets mad at
yes,
her
I know
because
what
she's so
talking about.
feminine.
Okay.
Yes. First of all, there's no such thing as a black man in the system of white supremacy. That's out. You forget about that. You have to get rid of the system of white supremacy in order for a black male, that's M-A-L-E, to go from boy to man. You have to get rid of the system of white supremacy for that to occur. There's no such thing as a black male person being a man in the system of white supremacy. That's impossible. And that's a devastating statement, but it's true. It's either true or false. I'm either making true or false statements. It's impossible for a black male to be a man in the system of white supremacy, and the system of white supremacy is global, and it dominates every black male on the planet, 24/7 in all areas of activity: economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war. That black male, including myself, it's impossible for me to be a man. I can be a boy or an imitation female, which is what the white supremacists are busy turning a lot of black males into.
This is correct.
Worldwide. All of the evidence shows this. This is just not me talking. Just go anywhere and take a good hard look and try to see what you're looking at. And they are busy 24/7 doing that because they decided, I say around about 1968, about the time that Martin Luther King was assassinated, that these black males are really serious about trying to go from boys to men. They even have some singing group called that.
Yes.
Boys to men.
Hang on, Dr.
It ain't
Fuller.
gonna happen.
Hang on for a minute. This is TalkTameRadio.com, the world's greatest radio, and you are listening to The Compensatory Concept with Dr. Neely Fuller. My name is Mr. Bobby, and if you'd like to call in, you can by calling 1-877-932-9766 for your calls for Dr. Fuller. Go ahead, Dr. Fuller. Continue, and then we have another caller.
And that the boys, these black boys, I don't care if they're 100 years old. I don't care what they have been through. I don't care what kind of business they run and all like that. There's only one male who is a man on this planet, and he is white. All men on this planet, under the system of white supremacy, are white. There's no such thing as a black man on this planet in the system of white supremacy, and the system of white supremacy is the only system on the planet that counts.
Wow. That's a hard statement, Dr. Fuller.
Yes, it is.
Would Neely Fuller say that about the female also? Because we need to have the female
that's what I
part
mean.
so
The
they
female
understand.
cannot grow into womanhood. They have to remain girls as long as the black male is a boy or an imitation female. So she's reaching out trying to find a man, and there are none.
Okay.
Because there's no such thing as a black man on the planet. Period.
Wow. Okay, California. Thank you
He's
for your
not
call.
qualified to be a man.
We do have another call. Listen, by the way, if you want to replay Dr. Fuller, you can at 3 p.m. today. This is 3 p.m. Eastern Time, and also at 10 p.m. here on the world's greatest radio. That is TalkTainmenToRadio.com. Okay, we have another caller. Go ahead, caller. State your name and where you are from.
Hi, can I be heard?
Yes, you're live.
Hi, wonderful. Good morning. My name is Rachel. I'm calling from Detroit, Michigan.
Detroit. Hey, Rachel, you have your water cut on?
Yeah, actually, I'm in the suburbs of Detroit.
All right.
Mine is on.
All right.
But I know plenty of people who do not have water for $33. So we're not going to talk about that.
As long as you're not in Grosse Pointe Shores. Anyway, go ahead. Go ahead with your question for Dr. Fuller.
Well, I'm calling because my son, he just graduated from a suburb high school in the metropolitan area, but I took him out of a Detroit public school because I was dissatisfied with the education that he was receiving. And so I found satisfaction, so I thought, with the education. He graduated. But what I noticed is that the moment he went to the suburban schools, the white girls, flocked to him. And I'm just trying to, he's dating a white girl, and she's a nice person. Her father is a racist. He let it be known that he did not approve of his daughter dating my son. And she now comes around, she's trying to identify with our culture, which I find all the time that happens. But I'm just trying to wrap my mind around why, of course, the younger generation, what I noticed at the high school is a lot of interracial, so to speak, dating. A lot of the white girls are dating the black guys, and that's just so common. But, of course, there's my mentality as his parent. I'm like, no, I don't approve of it. Her father is against it. And it's just one of those things where it's like, wow, is this the reality that we're coming to at this stage? So I'm just wanting some comments on that from Mr. Fuller.
Yes. Questions and answers. So that's the question. Is this a reality? And the reality is yes. Now, who has engineered this? The white supremacists engineered this. They decided a long time ago, right after the riots of the 1960s in the Northwestern Hemisphere, and after the rise of people in Africa, who were talking about they didn't want to be boys and girls anymore. That they wanted to be men, and they wanted to be treated like human beings and whatnot, all over what you call the diaspora and whatnot. So the white supremacists got busy real quick and went to their next step, which is, sure, what we'll do, we'll take the most ambitious, the most logical black people, and we'll pair them off with white females. And if they don't particularly feel comfortable with that, we'll pair them off with white males. We'll take black males and pair them off with white males, particularly the smartest ones. Oh yeah, you can see that right in front of you. Take the smartest ones. Start with the ones in the colleges, the ones who are in the professions and whatnot, and tell them, hey, this is the way to go. Now, they used to allow just a few of them, but now, because of the cost of doing the business, and white supremacy is a business, the cost of doing that business is going up. They have to allow or promote more and more black males, pairing them off with white females. That's a part of the white supremacist strategy, but it comes under the system of white supremacy. You don't let it get out of control. You don't let the black people start controlling that. You're talking about sex. Sex is very important to people all over this planet. So the white supremacist says anything sexual, we are going to control it. We are going to control it, but we will make it look like they are controlling it in many instances. Because what do they know anyway? They don't even know that white supremacy exists. So how do they know what we're doing? Because we know how to make it look like white supremacy doesn't exist. We are arch deceivers, but we are controlling all of their movements, and they don't even know that we're controlling it. They are not in charge. They are not making the decisions. about how many black males are going to be paired off with white females. We make that decision, like we have always made decisions for these people, and made it. Some of it look like they are making the decision, which is what you call deception perfected.
Yes.
When you can train people in such a way that when they do something, they make you have them trained in such a way that they think that they originated what they are doing. That's when you have really perfected your training.
Wow.
And they have perfected that.
Okay, Michigan. Thank you for Detroit. Thank you for calling in. We do appreciate that. Thank you very much. We do have another caller on the line. Phone lines are blowing up. State your name and where you are calling from, caller. Go ahead.
I prefer not to. Is that okay for today?
I'm sorry?
I prefer not to.
Oh, okay. Well, where are you calling from then?
Is that okay? Okay, New York.
Okay, New York. All right. New York City?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
So, in terms of the interracial relationships, it seems to me, even though in America it's printed in the magazines often, that there is a browning of the United States and that the number of Caucasians are not having as many children. And even though Caucasians are a minority on the planet anyway,
yes,
there's a browning of America taking place. However, when I look at a movie called Rabbit Proof Fence, and it talks about the annihilation of the Aboriginal blacks on Australia, and there was this program in Australia in the early 1930s, I believe, wherein they were forcing black females to marry Caucasians and vice versa, to whiten out the blacks, to annihilate the blacks through marriages. And now Australia is a white continent, white country. So at one point it was forced, and now people believe that they're doing it on their own choice. I said all that information to ask this question. Is it true that Caucasians are on their way out in terms of numbers, or is it really just a ruse just to have non-whites feel comfortable that they will be here as the majority on the planet in the future, when really we're killing ourselves or sexing ourselves out of existence?
Okay, Dr. Fuller, go ahead.
The white supremacist strategy is always to deceive. So they juggle these statistics. I mean, they're slaughtering black people all over this planet 24/7. And dark-skinned people, people of color. They're dying of disease, they're dying of this, they're dying of that. I mean, and they juggle these statistics to fit their program because they're in control of the media. Black people are looking at statistics that are put out by the white supremacists. So, and it's not just a matter of numbers. The white supremacists have always been outnumbered, just like all royalty has always been outnumbered by the people that they dominate. And the system of white supremacy is nothing but a royalist system based on color, dominating and mistreating. And I have to add that mistreatment. That's the main part of it. And that's what they have been doing. So they don't care too much about the numbers because they can increase or decrease the numbers anytime they get ready. Anytime there's a population, and they tailor populations. They're not trying to get rid of the non-white people on the planet. They just move them around like they're pawns on a chessboard or checkerboard. They just move them around where they want them. And they can starve them here, and they said, now, if you stay here, you're going to starve, so you move here. You come closer to me. I mean, leave Morocco and try to get to France. And in the process of doing that, we know that on those rickety boats that you get on, half of you are going to drown. And we got that all calculated anyway because we built the boats. You don't know how to build a boat. You don't know anything except what we tell you. And if you know how to build a boat, we have to teach you. And if we teach you how to build a boat, you're not going to build one unless we let you. You think you're going to have us, we're going to teach you to build ships and go on our ocean without our permission? You dark-skinned people are not going to do anything without our permission. Wake up.
Wow.
That's what white supremacy is.
Man, the time has gone. Thank you, New York. Well, Dr. Fuller, the time has just went by so fast. But anyway, TalkTimeRadio.com, the world's greatest radio the way it should be heard. You were listening to The Compensatory Concept with Dr. Neely Fuller. Tune in every Wednesday at 10 a.m. Eastern Time for more. We'll see you next week. Thank you, Dr. Fuller.
On
Thank you.
TalkTainmentRadio.com, the world's greatest radio.
The most important question in all racial matters is why. One should always ask it.
Radio, the way it should be heard.
You've got the power. The world's greatest radio. TalkTainmentRadio.com.